Deceit, treachery.
It was a very big deal for me because I had done a couple of things before, but the reason I got involved in film in the first place was because I had seen Star Wars, and that was fantastic to me.
So how many people haven't played Minecraft? Haven't. So you haven't played Minecraft? You're the only one? Come on, someone else has it. No, you've all played Minecraft? So what is Minecraft is like... Minecraft is a game where basically it's like a pixelated open world game. There's no story, there's really no other characters, there's no voiced protagonist, nothing like that. And the game is all about building and mining, and it's in this 3D world where you have all these cubes basically. The whole world's made of cubes, and about half the size of your character. And you can hit them and then you mine them and they disappear. And by doing that you can dig tunnels deep into the earth and find caves of lava and all kinds of caverns and stuff, and or you could take blocks you've collected and build things and make houses with them and castles.
He calls the summon Hero Brian, and then he's basically like the Satan.
Yes, you have Hero Brian. Tell us about Hero Brian.
That's a myth. He doesn't exist.
I think he exists.
No, he doesn't.
I feel like he's a weird flip.
So Hero Brian is like an NPC that might haunt the world, right? It's a really cool game. Minecraft has all kinds of secret things in it, and like tons of depth. But it's really, really cool because it's also survival, like horror game a little bit. So you got to build a shelter because at night all the monsters come out, and these monsters will come and kill you, and some of them can even blow up and stuff. So what we're going to attempt to do today is we're going to create basically the foundation that you would expect when you're making a Minecraft game. And the first part of that will be our blocks. We'll be making our blocks and the different block types and stuff like that, and giving them some sort of functionality. So,
Can we build?
Can you build? We won't cover that today. Maybe by the end of the week.
Yay.
Hopefully, maybe. It's a big maybe. But go ahead and open Unreal. I'll sit down. I put up the live stream so we all remember how to get to that, right? Let's go to YouTube.orgames and you'll be able to find that.
We love YouTube.
So pull up YouTube and you can see what's on my screen up here, or follow along up here. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit play just so you can get a feel for what this template does. It should look like this for the template. And these blocks are physics enabled, right? So it bounces. Minecraft's a first-person game, so this will be good. And like I said, we're going to use our gun as our mining tool for now. So go ahead and hit escape. And the first thing I would do, looking at this world, is let's make our block type. And my idea for this is let's make a blueprint, right? So we only have to code something once, but then we can use it multiple times. So we'll make one blueprint called block, or BP block for blueprint block. And then we will put on that block all of the functionality that it can become other types of blocks throughout our world. So we can go from being wood to cobblestone to water to lava, etc., right? So how do we add a new blueprint? Go to the bottom window here, Content Browser. Green button lower left, add new, then blueprint class. And we're going to choose actor. And we're going to name it BP block. So again, you click add new, blueprint class, and then you choose actor. Actor.
Do we name it whatever we want?
I would name it BP_block to stay organized. And once you've named it and you have it in your content browser, double click it and make the window big. And you're going to have this blank from scratch blueprint now to work with. Now the first thing I want to do here is I want to add a mesh. I want to add a mesh, which is the 3D object that characterizes this. So click in the components up here, upper left, add component, and then choose static mesh. You could hit Control Z, or you could delete it. Like I'll just delete my static mesh. Let's say I didn't want this from components. I have it selected, hit delete. Again, go back, add the thing you want. It's called static mesh. So on the right side, the details panel, where it says static mesh, it says none currently. We want to set that to like a cube type. So we already have some cubes in our game. So the one I would pick is, there's one with kind of rounded edges. We don't want that because Minecraft doesn't have that. We want one that's strictly a cube. Let's see, this one. Yeah, this is the kind I think. Yeah, that'll work. So choose the one that says 1m_cube. Cube, yeah. Not couch. It's a different game. And for fun, why don't we change the material of that cube to something that's already Minecrafty by default? I think the perfect one you can do is look up grass and then choose the grass material. An alternate one, if you wanted dirt, for example, there's something called rust, and rust looks a lot like dirt. So I'll go with a dirt block on mine. It's just a generic. I just chose the rust material, and it looks like dirt. So before we do any kind of coding of anything, let's move a couple of these blocks. Actually, let's move several. We'll build out a little mini Minecraft world in our level with these blocks. They don't do anything yet, but just so we can get a feel. So hop on over to the front of Unreal. And the first thing before we do anything is change the grid snapping. I talked about this before in that upper left here. I'm sorry, upper right. You have this snapping value by default, something at like 10, right? Well, with these blocks, we want them to be perfectly aligned. We don't want any gap in between them, because Minecraft doesn't do that. And we don't want them to kind of overlap each other either. They got to be perfectly fitting next to each other. So to help us out, we have the grid. So change the grid to 100. And then drag out some of the blocks, or just drag out the one block, right, in your content browser. And you can drag it out several times into your world. And as you drag them next to each other, they will snap perfectly next to each other. That's because we're using that grid system. So make sure your grid's set to 100, and then just start dragging out these blocks and put them next to each other. And make like a long row of them. Is your grid at 100? In the upper right here, for sure? Is that 100? So if there's a gap, if your grid's at 100, then the only type of gap you're going to have is a gap of exactly the right size for a block. So you can move a block into that gap and it'll fit perfectly. Like, I'll just duplicate one. Here, I have this gap. If I move this here and then into the gap, it's going to fit perfectly. Joshua, go ahead and help her. So what I want all of us to do as well is I made this long row of them like this. And what I want to do is I want to make like a whole floor of blocks, and then I want to make a second level, a third level, and like a fourth level, so we can actually mine into it later on. So to do this quickly, what I want everyone to do is go ahead and click on one of these blocks in this row and hold Control and click the next one and the next one and the next one. And so you keep doing that so that you can highlight all of these blocks at once. Holding Control and clicking so they're all highlighted like I did. And once you've done that, you're going to hit Command G. And it's going to group them together. So if I click off of it and I click on any of them again, it's going to remember that they're grouped and select them all. So Command G or Control G. What's easy about that is now I can duplicate this without having to do it one at a time. So again, I could do Command C, Command V for copying and pasting, but my favorite way is to hold the Alt key and then drag. So if I hold Alt and drag, I get a complete copy of the whole row, the whole group. And I'm just going to keep doing that. I want you to do that as well until I have a good floor. What's that? So if you hold Alt and then drag your highlighted objects, it'll make a copy in the direction you're dragging in. How to highlight? You hold Control and you click all the pieces you want highlighted. As long as you're holding Control, it's going to keep adding the new things you're clicking to the highlighted part. By the way, I'm going to move my character out of the way so he doesn't get buried. I'm going to move him over here. Now what I'm also going to do now that I have this floor is I'm going to hold Control and click all of these rows again. So I'm holding Control and clicking all the rows. And then I'm going to do an Alt drag, but this time I'll drag in the upward direction so I can make a second level. So I have them all highlighted now. That was really quick because I grouped them, right? Control G. And now if I do Alt drag up, it'll lag for a second because it's a lot of objects, and then I'll have a second row. Command G is how you group them. That way you're not working with one block at a time, which would take forever. Joshua, go ahead and help her if you understand. Okay, so I'm going to do one more row of this. And also for my own doing, I'm going to drag out a couple more blocks that'll sort of act like stairs so I can get up to the top of this. Because otherwise, I won't be able to. I just hit play so we can see what that looks like. Good, and I can hop on these, and there we go. We got a bunch of dirt blocks. So once you've got a good amount of blocks in your world, looks like most people do, let's go back to our blueprint and actually make this block behave like a block in Minecraft. But actually, before we do this, go back, go to the front of Unreal like there. I'm going to show you how to do something that's really convenient in Unreal. I haven't showed you this yet. And it's something called an enum. An enum. Now, I'm always talking about these strange, crazy programmer names that don't make any sense. This is, you add this to the list, okay? An enum stands for enumeration, which doesn't help, right? All that is a list of things. It's just a list. So what I want you to do is create an enum. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a list of the different types of blocks we can have. So we could have, cobblestone will be on that list. Water, right? That's a block. Will be on that list. Wood will be on that list, etc. So go ahead and hit the Add New button in our content browser. And you want to go to the section called Blueprints. So not Blueprint Class was actually a subsection It says blueprints, and it has a little mini window that comes out. And you want to choose a thing that's called enumeration. That's our enum, or list, and click that. And once you click that, it's going to pop up in the content browser asking you what you want to call it. I'm going to name it block types. No spaces, block types. Once you've done that, double click it. And you're going to get this window that comes up. It's rather empty. And there's a new button on the right. So we've double clicked our enum, right? We've double clicked our block types object. And now we have this window coming up. Yeah, this is what our window looks like. Okay, so click new, and then it's going to ask you, what do you want to name this? Display name. And this, as long as you keep hitting new, you're going to add items to our list. And if you add too many and you don't like it, you can click the X right there, and you can close them out. But I would say add like 4 for now. And I'm going to name the first one grass. Actually, no, the first one's going to be dirt. We'll do dirt. Second one's going to be grass. Doesn't matter really what order, to be honest, but dirt, grass, cobblestone, and the last one's going to be water. Because cobblestone is what you have in the environment already, right? That you mine. Or is cobblestone what you smelt?
No, you have stone, and then you mine it, and it turns into cobblestone.
Oh, okay.
And if you smelt it, it turns back.
Yeah, so we're not going to get into like variants of the different stuff. I'm going to keep mine named cobblestone. You can name it stone for now if you want. But yeah, maybe later on we can make it so that it converts once it gets into an inventory and all that sort of thing. So dirt, grass, cobblestone, water. Okay. And that's it. Now we have our list. Okay, you could leave this tab open if you want, or you could exit out. I'm going to click X on it. We might come back and add more things to it, but for now that's fine for our purposes. So I want you to go to your blueprint for your block, and we're going to start on another new thing we haven't done yet, which is the construction script. We've done everything on the event graph before, all our coding, and now we're doing the construction script. The construction script isn't that different from the event graph. The only difference is the construction script is for things that happen before the game is actually being played, right? Event graph is for while the game's being played. Construction script is from before. What's cool is the construction script allows us to make changes on the object that we see happen while we're actually designing our level. So what we'll do in the construction script is we'll allow ourselves, our level designer, to change the blocks, the block types. So what I want you to do is we're going to create a variable for that list we just made, and we're going to switch based on the list. Do you have a pass?
No.
Okay. So, by the way, do you have attendance? Where's attendance? Oh, thank you. Andrew, right?
Yep.
Okay, so where were we? Construction script. What we want to do is in the lower left here, something called variables. Click the plus icon. We're going to add a variable. And go ahead and name it type or block type, whatever. So I named it type. And then the details pane on the right where it says variable type, we want to change it from Boolean, that's our on-off switch, and we want to change it to the list that we made, the enum we made, right? So if you type in now block types, under a category called enum, you'll see that the list we made comes up. So choose block types. And then once you've done that, hit compile on the left here so that you can actually see it change in the default value. If you've done that right, you'll see in the default value on this details panel, you could actually, it's a drop down like a list, and it could be dirt, grass, cobblestone, or water. Right. So I'm going to leave it as dirt by default. One thing I want you to do is back over by our variables in the lower left, our variable section. Take a look at that variable we made called type. And right next to it is what looks like a little, like an eyelash or like a closed eyeball icon. And if you click on it, it turns into an eyeball, right? Click that. Lower left, right next to your variable type, click the eyeball.
I see, but
Okay. All right, so we've done that. Now let's go to our construction script. So here we are on our construction script. We're going to code it so that our blocks change the way they look change depending on our block type. So drag that variable called type, drag it onto your construction script. It's going to ask you, do you want to get or set? We want to get. And then once you have that little thing that says type, because you selected get, drag off of there and type in the word switch. And you want to pick the thing that says switch on block types. This is a really convenient blueprint node whenever you're using a num list, right? That lets you change what you're doing in the code depending on which item in that list is the selected one. Yeah?
You said we have to change Boolean to a num, and it would have a name that we put. What was the name?
Do you mean the variable name up here? Or, see variable type, it was Boolean, and I want you to just type in whatever the name of that object, that list we made. And I named mine block types. So if you type in block types, your num called block types should come up. And once you do that, make sure you hit the compile button on the left here. And then once you've done that, make sure that you drag that type onto your graph. You do a get. And then you drag off of that, and you type in the word switch, and it's going to give you this switch on block types node. All right. So go ahead and connect the front of the construction script to the front of the switch on block types. And now we can code independently each channel based on which one's selected. So what we want to do is we want to grab our static mesh from the components here, drag that onto our graph, and we're going to get it now. So you just drag your static mesh onto your graph, and then drag off of that static mesh, and then type in the word set material, set space material, and choose the option that says set material. Yep, and it should have static mesh should be connected into that target pin of set material. If you did it like I said, it should automatically connect it. Okay. And what I want you to do is I want you to connect this dirt channel into the front of that set material. So now they're connected. And then on that set material node, you have these settings, target, element index. We just want to do this last one called material where it says select asset. Click that drop down, and we're going to pick the material we're using for our dirt. So I'm going to type in rust because rust looks perfect for that. And so that's going to be rust. And once you've done that, The rest of our code is really easy because we'll just be copying and pasting this for the other channels and just changing what that material drop down actually looks like. So I'm going to do Command C, Command V. So with those two highlighted, I want the static mesh and the set material parts highlighted. Command C, Command V. Paste it below and change the material for this second one, grass, to the grass material.
Wait, what is it going to?
So if you highlight, so I drag a box, left click and drag a box over those two things, the static mesh and the set material, and then you hit Command C, Command V.
Command V or Command V?
Command V.
Okay, I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah. Also, what I actually do is I like to do Command W because it does both those at once. So if I have something highlighted, I do Command W, it pastes. But I don't think your Macs do that. I think your Macs do something else if you do Command W. So when you do that for the grass channel, just make sure that the material is changed to grass for that one. I'm going to go ahead and do one for our cobblestone now. So I'm going to left click, drag a box, Command C, Command V. All right. And I'm kind of stacking these all on top of each other. Seems to work well. And I'm going to drag cobblestone node into there and make sure the material for that one is going to be, there's actually something I think called cobblestone that will look good. Yeah, it's something called cobblestone smooth. So I'll choose that. And then finally for the last channel, water, I'll go ahead and Command C, Command V. And I'll just type in water and I'll choose the lake water. And I'll make sure I connect that. So now that you've done that, remember, and for those of you who are catching up, when we made our variable called type, we made sure to click this eyeball icon so that it's an open eye. Okay. What that means is that the variable is something called being public. And what that means is that we can edit it on different instances, which is all fancy terminology, of this blueprint, which is another way of saying that I can go into my map here and in the front of Unreal now, and if you've already coded all the stuff, go ahead and go to the front of Unreal. If I click on any of these objects, by the way, to ungroup things, do Command G again, or actually Shift G. Shift G is going to ungroup it, so then you don't want it to be in a group, you just want to select one block, use Shift G, and it's going to remove it from its group. You could alternatively right click and then hit somewhere in here, it's going to say groups, and then hit ungroup, either one. But if I select a block now, if I look in its details panel, that variable is actually there for me to change. That's why we check that eyeball icon. That makes it so that we can change it in the details panel up here. So I want everyone who's coded so far to go to the front of Unreal, select a block, and change your type dropdown to one of these other dropdowns. I'm going to change it to grass, and my block becomes grass. So repeating what I did, I went to the front of Unreal. All right, we've coded everything. If I click on a block, and this one block at a time, and by the way, if you are stuck on a group like this, just do Shift G. It's going to ungroup it. Now you can click on them individually. Clicking on that block in the details panel is the variable we created. All right, so you can actually change that type. Attendance?
I don't see it, sir.
I don't see it either.
And the eyeball is open.
Oh, actually, one more page. So if the eyeball is open, when you click on a block, in the details panel here, under a category called default, toward the top, you should see something called type, and it's that drop down for dirt or grass, water. And you can change it to those different things. Let me come around. Edit block.
Oh my gosh.
I can't see. Edit block. Okay. Oh, you just have to connect that to the.
Oh.
But I did that. Oh, and then you gotta hit compile. Oh, on the bottom left. My computer went crazy when I hit compile. You block blocks.
So much.
Oh, probably it's got one. One. Yeah. Oh, so no, you see again. Do you block type? Is it Jerry boy? Oh yes, you are. Probably in Samsung. You want control. Yes. Okay, try command then.
In the words,
Okay, so in the
it's
Mac it's
tiny.
command. On
Oh,
Windows it's
yes,
control.
tiny.
For those of you trying to group, if it's not working, you want to hit command and then click, not control. Sure. And
And in the words,
so what
plankton,
you want to do is
daddy
you want to do the new the first person shooter project. Not we're doing a brand new project. Okay, so you're already good here. So what we did is, and I can't show all of it right now, but I can start you. So create a new blueprint. That's for our blocks.
Pokemon, catch them all.
And you want to name it block. Double click it. Do you have anything blue in mind? Yeah. Yeah, you bet. And then all of it is. But I will be continuing once a month. So make sure that you're as caught up as possible so you get more by the time. So you want to name it the add component, and then you want to change mesh. That mesh. And then you want to change it to a cube. Yeah, right. One back cube to the top. Yeah. And then so the rest of it's sort of like kind of coding stuff. So follow the tutorial for the rest of the class. How are we doing over here?
Is that a good thing?
How are we doing over here? Good. So your variable's probably not public, so go to your GP block. So there's your variable. So click it. If you name it new var or whatever, click on the new var. Yeah, let's name it.
But wouldn't he be bad?
Name it type, block type,
This is
whatever.
a complex question. We need a psychologist. A psychologist. I need an able.
Enter. And then what we want to do is we want to click this little thing here, close I, and say we're going to open I, and now hit compile. Now we can actually edit that underneath. So what I does is lets us edit that outside of the group. So yeah, it'll hang for a while, and then once it's done, you go to the front of Unreal and you click on the blocks, and then this all looks good.
She's there.
How are we doing here? Good. Doing okay? Let's close you out here.
For the bigger picture, give us the sacrifice.
Great. So we only have 7 minutes left in class, unfortunately. So trying to think through what we can do in that time period. I think what we could do is let's make one more variable for here. I don't think yeah, we could do this in our time. We're gonna make a variable called block health. You don't think about this, but in Minecraft, the blocks kind of have health. You hit them, and then they die or they disappear after a certain amount of hits. And some blocks have more health than others. Stone takes a lot more hits than dirt, for example. So we're going to make a variable that has our block health. So go ahead and click in the lower left the plus variable. We're going to add a new variable. And this new one, we're going to name it block health. And then I want you to change variable type to an integer. That's just a number, right? Health can be used by a number. So you create a new variable called block health, and you change it variable type to integer. And what I want to do is I want to change what the health of the block is depending on what type of block it is. So if it's dirt, I want it to be really weak health. If it's stone, I want it to be a higher health. And we'll just change that by adding that to our construction script. So continuing off of our construction script where we're already at, on the dirt channel where we set material, after that we're just going to set the block health to what we want when the block is supposed to be dirt. So drag your block health variable and do a set, connect it, and then I'm going to choose the number 3, and that'll be easy because I'll count this in a way that it'll take 3 hits to destroy dirt. So I just connected that like there, and now it's going to take 3 hits to actually connect dirt. I'm going to Command C, Command V that. I'm going to do it again now for grass. Let's make grass, I'm going to leave it at 3 too. Grass and dirt will take the same amount of hits to mine through. Okay. Now for cobblestone, I'm going to do Command C, Command V. For cobblestone, I'm going to set the block health to like 12. So it takes a while to break through cobblestone. And then for our last one, this is going to be interesting. Water is going to have to be unique because water you can't really mine. Water you can't mine. How do I do this? There's a couple ways we could disable the mining. We can do this sort of thing, but the easiest way to do is to just make it an impossible number that the player's never going to do. So I'm going to make it 1,000. So basically saying that the water is mined if the player literally shoots it or mines it 1,000 times. And since that's never going to happen, effectively water isn't mineable. So we have 3 minutes. There's one last thing I want to do is let's turn off the collision for a water so you can actually fall through it. So it's not like a solid block. To do that, all you gotta do is drag off of the static mesh part for the water. So in the water channel, just drag off that static mesh. Type in set collision enabled, and then get the node called set collision enabled. Check that, connect it, and then just make sure that the new type says no collision, and it does by default. No collision. There you go. So now if you have water in your world and you move into it, you'll fall through it, just like in real Minecraft. All right, 2 minutes left. So take the last minute and change some of your blocks that you want to the different types you want. Make this world a little interesting, and then go ahead and save. What's that? Collision, yeah. So you drag off of the static mesh, and you type in the word set collision. And you want to choose set collision enabled.
So I went in there